So good to see you again. I remember when we first told your story in 2016, the world was a very different place, even with regards to the conversation between the church and the LGBTQ community. It was a great privilege telling your story back in 2016. 316 was still a very small church. We were about 50 people then,
Yeah.
a good mix of youth and adults. And I remember when Pastor Ian approached you to tell your story, that you responded very positively. Maybe can you share why you wanted or felt that there was a need to tell your story?
Mm, I guess at that point, after I shared my SSA relationship with a past mentor from another church, I felt God's calling to me to share about my part of the journey that I think it has to be a topic that also churches needs to talk about. Yeah, and that convicted me. But I didn't share this with anybody actually. I was just seeing how this is going to unfold.
How did overcoming same-sex attraction look like?
Overcoming same-sex attraction at that point for me was I could literally hear God's heart and felt his heart for me, that it was painful, it was aching him. And it was a deliberate choice that I know that I had to follow him. It was really clear because I also knew then it was a whole emotional turmoil that I wasn't facing up to it. And I was just probably getting involved with another female just to ease off what I really needed, which is a trust that I knew that I just can't get it from human actually. It's just fully trusting God to walk through my journey. So that was then learning to know that He's all that I have and having a group of friends who are believers that journey with me through.
So after that one moment, did you continue to struggle with same-sex attraction, or it was a complete turnaround for you?
I didn't have to struggle for very long. But I have to be honest still that there are female qualities that I still get attracted to, but I don't lust for them. I don't yearn for them the same way that I used to anymore. Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing your story because back then it was silence on this matter, especially from the church. And the silence was a little bit deafening. And I don't think we have even now yet found the perfect language to relate to the LGBTQ community.
Yep.
So when you shared your story, it really gave new hope and a new language on how the church can address this matter. And I remember one time when we screened James Parker's story, and he eventually got married and have a kid. And someone in the church, he came to me and he said that, Pastor, I feel that you are trying to say that the only way to win, to overcome
Is to
same-sex attraction is to get married and have a kid. And and he says that that's not true because as someone who struggles every single day when I don't act on my same-sex desires, to me that's victory.
yeah.
And I thanked him for that insight. And I said that you are right. And I think that we must also tell people that every single day, when you overcome a desire to act on same-sex attraction, be it pornography, be it looking at someone and lusting over someone of the same sex, I think that's victory. And I
Yep.
think it is important for the church at large to recognize that as well.
Yes.
So let me ask you, what is your end goal right now as someone who used to struggle with same-sex attraction?
Okay. Actually, this question is quite scary because usually, it leads to a certain path like, oh, you're gonna get married or you probably have family and kids. But that's not my end goal, to be very honest. Yeah. My end goal is to lead a life that is just not only happy, but that is pleasing to God. And knowing that even one day that I don't get married or have my family, I am fully secured knowing who I am. I mean, to me right now, I'm living the best life, I feel. And I don't think we should be put down in that sense because we have chose this way. I have friends, we have spoken about this topic. I mean, they're still in the community and they have chosen to pursue their same-sex attraction. I mean, I respect that as well. And we are still really good friends. Just wondering, I mean, since both of us are from 316 Church, is it difficult for pastors to actually talk about this topic to the churches and to the outside community?
Actually, you would think that even though we at 316 have spoken about this so many times and we run True Love Is, that it would be easy, but it is still very difficult. These days, especially on social media, okay, if we speak the truth, we're labeled a homophobe. We are called to be moral policing. And if we come off as too accepting on the other hand, there is a militant camp among the conservatives that might say that we are softening the stance of the church as well. And so, left difficult, right also difficult. But what we want to do is that we want to continue to love as best as we can. And I believe that we will still make mistakes, but we can ask for forgiveness. And I think it will be helpful. And I think it also takes a lot of work to understand what is this language that we are learning. So I don't think it's easy, but I think it's needful for us as pastors and leaders to understand how best to communicate about this matter. It is important to have empathy. I'm not someone who is naturally empathetic, and I've said really mean things before, things that I didn't think was mean, but now I do. I've taught things and I've said things like, why can't you stop being gay? Just choose to stop being gay lah.
Wow. Okay.
Like yeah, very mean, right? And I now realize, having met people, having connected, that's not the kindest thing, because it's not easy, and these are struggles that are intrinsic to the person, and I think it's important for pastors to understand how to respect that and journey with the people. There are many questions along what it means to struggle with same-sex attraction. But I think it's important for pastors and leaders and Christians first to be aware about what to say and what not to say, what's helpful to say, what's not helpful to say. There's only 6 main passages in the Bible that speaks about this. I want to encourage pastors and leaders to put in the work to study on the passages and also to understand what some commentators are speaking about it. And the more we converse about it, the more we learn what to say. And if we care, if we genuinely care for people who struggle with same-sex attraction, like we do our children, like we do our adults who are struggling in their careers, like we do about our families, then we will learn and we will talk about it in a helpful manner.
I think this is probably one way that we as church, we need to really converse. And I think also back to that very important part is the heart. It's the heart that you choose to link with another in a conversation portion, where you really, I think like Norm, you said, it's really learning from one another. It's really hearing out. Yeah, then that's where the conversation and this topic could actually be spoken. When we talk about church, we're looking at such a big dynamic. It's not just a one-to-one person like what we're doing now, like having a conversation. So I always feel that it's a very intentional, relational way of doing church. That's not just like, you have this issue, so okay, we're gonna have a separate path for this group of people. But so far, I would say with 316 Church and with so much controversial topic on this, I do feel a genuine acceptance whereby this group of family members will receive me and journey with me. I think that to me is acceptance. So I also feel it takes a part of a responsibility for the person to know and define for himself or herself what it means by being accepted into the church. Yeah.
Appreciate that. We're still learning.
Yes, we all are.
And you know what? I think we will still say the wrong things at times. And I don't think that we are afraid to apologize for it. In fact, I think that both sides can apologize and learn to forgive one another. I think that's what Jesus loves, and that we would grow together to be that safe space for one another. Right now, society doesn't seem like a safe space for pastors as well. You say one thing is wrong, we say another thing, we get cancelled, right? And so I think this mutual understanding and mutual respect, or just loving one another this way, I think it's good.
I was just wondering also, what would you say to those Christians who are struggling with SSA, who probably wants to come to our church?
I think they need to know that when they come into church, that there isn't a program that is going to pray the gay away from them. Okay, we are not a club where people come and then they lay hands on you and then they keep praying they get out of you. No, we're not that. Okay, but I do want them to know that they are still an important part of the church family. I want them to feel that. I want them to feel that they have an important role to play and that God is not ashamed of them. And neither are we. And we want them to be able to show us what it means to care for those who are struggling to reconcile their faith and their sexuality.
Yeah.
They are the ones with the lived experiences. They know the struggle, they know how difficult it is. They are the ones who are going to be able to teach us what it means to care for those who are defining their lives and their identity by their sexuality. And we want to learn from them. And they are not a project to be fixed. We have a chance here to be able to inspire those who struggle, who don't want to act on their same-sex attraction, to know that they have an important role in the church. And so I want them to know the church is learning to understand your felt needs and to be able to respect your lived experiences. There is an important place at the table for you.
Why are churches talking about homosexuality when there are other topics like abuse, pornography, racism?
I know it feels as though Christians like to harp on homosexuality. Can I suggest that it's not so much that churches are focusing on one issue,
Yeah.
is that this issue, it's very political and there's a lot of emotion in it. And as a result, every time we speak about it, it results in very polarizing views.
Yeah.
And it gets very public. And because it gets very public, there's a lot of attention on it. Churches actually address a variety of issues. We address marital problems. We address teens who are addicted to pornography. In fact, many churches have entire ministries that have been set up to address these matters. But many churches do not have ministries set up to address the LGBT matters yet. That's how little we have spoken about it. Also, the morality of a lot of the other issues we've spoken about, lying, cheating, stealing, pride, lust,
Yeah.
the morality of that has been accepted or has been taught by the church. Young people, especially, understand the morality of these issues. But when it comes to the issue of homosexuality, because of very effective pro-LGBT ideology, especially on social media, where our young people are on, there's a lot of confusion on this issue. And our young people, they want to know the answer. And so by talking about it, it's actually educating, or if I can use a church word, discipling the church on an issue that they want to speak about.
Yeah.
And thirdly, or this is not related to True Love Is, okay? Because True Love is a ministry that focuses on supporting people. But churches, by and large, sometimes do speak about the morality when it comes to homosexual matters, right?
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why they talk about it though is because there are activists out there who are trying to normalize a behavior that is inconsistent with what we believe in Scripture. There is no one out there who's trying to moralize or nominalize the use of pornography, for example, or the normalize adultery to make it commonplace or to make it an acceptable part of society. But yet there are a huge group of people who are trying to normalize something that is inconsistent with our beliefs. So what we have is that we have prominent figures who are advocating for its cause. And we have public figures, celebrities who are pushing pro-LGBT ideology. We don't have many pushing back because they'll be labeled as homophobic and they'll be labeled as hate speech as well. But there is a place, and there must be a place for the Christian view. And so, if I can say what some churches who might be pushing back a little on this matter is that they're trying not to give the activists a blank check when it comes to the issue of moralizing homosexuality in our society.
Yeah. Yeah, Norm, since we're on like this church topic that you were saying just now, I was just wondering for us who had SSA experiences, how do you think we can help the church to be a safer place?
I love that question. And I think, firstly, you have shared your story, you are speaking up, And you're doing so in a time when many are silent about this issue, and where those who speak up can be really criticized or cancelled or called out.
Yeah.
And by doing so, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is. Because I believe with my heart that there are many out there who are struggling to reconcile their faith in their sexuality. So they are experiencing same-sex attraction. But because of the Holy Spirit that is in them, they know that they don't want to act on their desires. But because social media, which is the world we live in these days,
Yeah.
it's so pro-LGBT, it's such a echo chamber that they don't feel safe just acknowledging their struggle. But because you shared your story and you're speaking out and you're saying that we exist, many who are out there who are still identifying as a gay or as a lesbian will suddenly have a light bulb turn on and say that maybe I can identify as a child of God instead. And I don't have to be defined by my struggle. I don't have to be defined by my sexuality. It is a big part of their identity, but it doesn't have to be everything. Because as Christians, and I'm talking to Christians here,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not talking to those who want to act on their same-sex attraction. I'm talking to those who are struggling. What you are doing is being an example and a model to them. And what you guys are really doing, just by living out your lives this way, you're inspiring all those who do not struggle with same-sex attraction. You're inspiring many heterosexuals who are probably not respecting their sexuality, who are sleeping around, who are addicted to pornography, who are not respecting women. And your lives, in surrendering your sexuality to the Lord, you are inspiring and provoking an entire generation to say that I need to treat my sexuality with more respect, with more holiness. And it really, the exampling and the modeling is amazing. And it breaks my heart to just see how, on one hand, people take it so seriously. And on the other hand, people are taking it so lightly.
Lightly, yeah.
And so I appreciate what you are really doing it. And I just think that the more you speak out and the more you don't undermine that responsibility or that gift, and the more the church recognizes that as well, the more the gift that you carry will be unveiled for the church to see and to become a safer place for those who want to come home.
Yeah, I do agree with you in the fact that the sharing of the stories are so important. And even on a social media platform, I mean, these are our real life experiences, but yet we still get very negative comments on it. But that actually will then propel people to know that if they were to be struggling within, they know that there's someone else beforehand that has come up and shared about their story.
And that's why I really appreciate you sharing your story, because by doing so, you are giving others who feel the same way the courage to come out, come home to a church, and seek the community and support in order to reconcile their faith and their sexuality.